joining Tour Life once again. How's it going, Missy?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, is it the shoulder? Is that what's causing some issues right now? Is that what I saw?
Yeah. It's not an injury. It's just between Waco and Austin, I think I played almost 8 practice rounds, and I can't be doing that at 35. So about to be 36 this Saturday. So I learned that the hard way, and unfortunately I just didn't have enough time to recover. So I'll be fine. It's just some soreness, some, pretty good tightness, but
gotcha.
We'll be all right.
You know what I like about that though? Other people in the field would be like, I'm injured. Like this, She comes on the show. It's like, it's not an injury. I'm tired. Most people though, I'm telling you, in the field that we play in, a little oh my gosh, I'm so hurt. Wah, wah, wah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
We got to find you a cold tub. Cold
plunge change your life.
Gosh, I know I hate cold water, but I might have to do it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because the last thing I wanted to do was get all my takes out on hole 18, Sprinkle Valley, and then just hear from people being like, wow, you didn't play, you didn't get it. So I wanted someone that played it. We have Yuli that played it on the MPO side. We had you that played it on the FPO side. And before I jump in and say my takes, I want to hear from both of you. Missy, you can start on what your takes are on the hole, what you liked about the hole, what you didn't, what needs to be changed, if anything. And you have the floor.
All right. Yeah. Honestly, I've gone back and forth so many times about this hole in my head, talking to Tom about it. And it's one of those things that I feel like it was like a shock to the system or something. Like, we don't have to deal with a lot of those psychological challenges on courses most of the time. And especially the stroke and distance style. We've only seen it a couple times on tour. Some of the people in the field may have never seen it if they've never been to European Open, if they've, maybe never played USDGC course. I don't know. But we just don't see it that often. And I think I really like those psychological challenges. Now, I will say that during U.S. Women's, of last year, the difference of that hole was that where it was OB to make the green and island, that was all inbounds, that pathway over the stairs down, but there was OB on both sides. So it still was like a tunnel-y shot, but it still played over stroke, over par every single round. So it was showing to be challenging even without that stroke and distance rule on the final shot. So I don't know I think when we see a hole that averages 1 stroke over par or a little bit more, we tend to be okay with it most of the time. Definitely not like the outrage or the polarizing thoughts about this hole that we saw this year, but it did play hard. And I will say that there were a lot more women in the field last year, as U.S. Women's usually has a much larger field in the professional, on the professional side. But this year, I think we had 50-ish women. I feel like we've been getting about 50 pretty consistently. But I don't know if it was a preparation thing. Let me say this first. I had a putt for bogey both rounds, for a bogey 6, both rounds. I ended up taking an 8 and a 7, whatever. But
one of those weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the first round I had a putt from just somehow in circle 2, even though the island is only about maybe a circle 2 on the backside, by a few feet, right? Yuli, probably. So the first round, I think I was just excited to have a putt for bogey, and I ended up just sailing it OB and, straight past the basket, over the basket OB. So that was an unfortunate 8. And then the next day went OB off the tee, actually. So that's already like ramping up my anxiety, because now I'm like, I haven't even gotten to the hardest part of the hole yet, and I'm already going in there with an extra stroke. Anyway, I think I'm rambling a little bit, but I think overall it's give us more reps on that hole, and I think the average would get better. I think that it was, again, just a very busy week, hard to get enough practice. Maybe people were underprepared and didn't quite understand exactly where their best landing zones would be.
Sure.
I made sure that I was just left of center right before the stairs, whether it was on whether it was on my second shot or if I had to lay up my third shot, because I was more comfortable throwing that baby hyzer up to the green.
Yeah.
Yep. So I definitely made a note of that, and I made sure that if I could, that was what I was trying to do. Again, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. I don't know. Obviously, some people are more confident throwing those 150-foot shots forehand. But realistically, you had to at least try to go OB long, right? I think that was our safe play in a way. At least try to cross the island and get to the drop zone. Again, in theory, that should be easy, but it just seemed to be an issue for a lot of people. But in general, I don't mind a challenge like that. Psychological. Again, in theory, it should be a pretty basic shot that we can all make. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. And so in general, I actually don't have a problem with the hole. There are things to say about the 5-card backups. That's a problem with course flow. I think there were 4 cards on hole 18 at once.
Yeah, so this kind of ties into something I want to say before Yuli, you pop in here in a second, is just where the FPO field is. A lot of people throw out averages, and they're saying this hole played 3 strokes over par or whatever. And it's like, there's people in the field that were 40 over par for 3 rounds, guys. Like, we have people that are, and obviously I know that, we'll get to Kristen here in a second. But I mean, there's plenty of people that are 30 shots off the lead. And it's like, do we really want those people to be factoring in the averages? I don't think so. I don't think that makes much sense. And then to add on to your backups, again, at a certain point in time, I don't think we should have people in the field that are 50 shots after 4 rounds. Like, someone played 4 rounds, and I know like the winner was -1, right? So it's not like people are lighting it up. So they were 50 shots off the lead after 3 rounds. If they would have played all 4 rounds, they would have probably been 65 shots off the lead. Like, there's just a lot of people right now, and I get it. We're trying to grow the FPO division. We're trying to get more people out there playing. But I think that's an issue right now. You have a lot of people that, quite frankly, don't deserve to be playing that course, and that's why you're going to having 5-card backups, because you have people that are taking 10s on 12s on like multiple holes. It's
yeah.
I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah, right. And I actually had looked up. I had just chosen the top 10 in FPO PDGA World Rankings, and I took that average for hole 18, and
nice.
I think it averaged, I have it in my notes, but it's on my phone that I'm using right now, so I don't know how to do that. But I think it only averaged like 1.6 over par the first day, which again, I think we've seen. And there was only one person that took a double-digit score on hole 18 out of those top 10 players. Yeah. And so like, that's again, a pretty drastic difference between, that's almost half what the scoring average was. So, for the field. So I think, there is something to say about how to pare it down to really get a better picture of how that hole actually played. And like I said, I think more reps and more practice on that hole, I don't know that you would see the average that we saw. But that's just speculation.
Yuli, what are your thoughts on hole 18?
Well, Missy, so good hole or bad hole, in your opinion?
Generally speaking, I think it was a good hole.
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts about this hole. So I got a lot of things to unpack here.
Yeah.
I think that the design in general makes the hole could possibly be one of the best that we play. And I think there's a couple things that they would need to change to actually make it the best final hole that we play. And it has to do with the thought of the hole is actually brilliant. Pretty easy shot off the tee, gets a little bit harder, gets really hard. I like that thought. The problem is the second shot, there's a lot of stuff in the way. And we had a bunch of wind that was like keeping you like to throw underneath this stuff. And it was just kind of a random lie. I think if you clear out the second landing zone, then we have a brilliant hole. Because then
how big of a gap was that, Yuli?
It's small, man.
Is it smaller than it looks on camera?
Very much so. So like the only way to get into the proper spot is you either have to go super far off the tee, and then it's tough because you had a right to left crosswind, and you had these what do you call railroad ties stacked up.
Yep. Which
made it like a low ceiling. So you couldn't just jam something in there. You had to put something from left to right to keep it low. And then if you missed the angle, you got stable and you were skipping out of bounds left, which is what I did one of the rounds. So it was random. You could throw it through there, and then it's just a random landing zone. If you take out a couple of those trees and you allow the person to kind of get to their spots, everybody goes. And I think that's what we're looking for with a hole like that. I don't want to see, which I did myself, jump putt to a spot and then go over. Like, I think.
Why don't you want to see that? See, because it didn't.
No. I don't want to see that after a good shot.
Okay, to me, again, I didn't play it, so I'm just going off of the visuals. To me, it looked like a wide enough gap if you were on the right side of the fairway.
So that's false. It's actually a tighter gap if you're on the right side. You want to be left center, and then it creates the bigger gap into the green. Right side, you're pinched.
So what I wrote down, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I wrote down is if you're on the right side of the fairway, you almost have to throw like a hyzer flip shot through, which is probably pretty challenging.
You'd have to throw like almost a bendy left to right shot with something stable to keep the height to get into the green if you're on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways,
I guess it was deceiving the angle of the cameras from Jomez.
I think it's hard to see how tall those railroad tie walls are too, in perspective to where you're, because we're throwing uphill that entire time. Gotcha. So those railroad ties are even higher up on the hill. It feels gradual, but yeah.
But don't you like the idea that your first shot requires good? Because I've always said too much of disc golf is either you need to land it somewhere left and right and the distance doesn't matter, or you have to get the distance right and left and right doesn't matter. What it sounds like you're telling me is like there's a good spot to land off the tee, distance and left and right.
Not with the right to left crosswind. I'm telling you, it's a random shot. You could throw the greatest shot ever and catch something in the middle. Like the shot didn't, to me, the best shot, honestly, to get to the spot was actually the left gap. All the way over on the left because there's nothing there. So if you throw a sidearm or something through there, that was the best gap. It's just then you're pushing towards the out of bounds.
So maybe get rid of one tree.
The luck gap, everybody took on the luck gap to try to get through and then hopefully get a spot, and everybody was landing by these two trees on the right. So my point is this. Let me finish.
Yeah.
My point is this. If we throw a shot and you land it in that spot, you pitch up. With a good shot or a bad shot, two people getting to the same spot. I don't like that. I want a bad shot to either go or pitch up, and a good shot to either go or pitch up, so you have the options. This was random. Now, the second green, or the third green, the island, great. Love the concept. I don't think we have that enough to
wait, Yuli, were you thinking I was talking about the first or second shot? Sorry. Just so we're on the same page.
Second shot.
No, I'm talking about the drive.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. You can put it wherever you want. You still have the same gap. There's no height going into there because of the right to left. If it's perfectly calm, yes, there's a certain spot you could land to where you can control a shot in there. But with the wind, we didn't have the option.
Gotcha.
The only way to control a perfect shot would be going left side because of the crazy right to left crosswind.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's just my opinion. But anyways.
That makes sense.
So I lost my thought.
Sorry. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Dang it.
You're talking about good shot, bad shot, and you want people to be able to go for it or lay up.
Yeah. So if the second spot has 2 tunnels going in and they're pretty manageable, I want you to get rewarded with a good shot there, and a bad shot, then I have to make a decision. I also want, if you make that island, if it's a little bit wide open, you can kind of go from all kinds of places because that's what you want to see. And then I want people to be able to, I'm not good at this shot, pitch up, that's fine, and then try to go. Now, to talk about the last island, it's one of my favorite things because in our game, we don't have holes where people dissect it like we were just talking about with Missy saying, hey, the miss is deep. That's 100% right, the miss is deep. You got to go deep.
Yep.
And then if you throw a good shot, you have the 40-footer coming back because that's where I was both rounds. I had the same putt. I went all the way back to the railroad ties because I'm a golfer. I'm not going to come up short in that scenario. And we don't have that. Lay the putt up, get a bogey, you're beating most of the field anyway. I had a 7. I went OB on my second shot, trying to go the left gap to get into the perfect spot or whatever. And then the first round, I made the island and I had the putt for, I don't know, for birdie or whatever. But I had to go from like 320 out. It was silly. Anyways, my point is, like Missy said, there's nothing that we play where you have this psychological warfare by yourself on a hole. Like, nobody's applying pressure. The pressure's already there 3 holes before. You're like, oh, gosh, 18's going to be kind of crazy. This could end my round. And then I think, like in traditional golf, putting, you have to have, like, it's like a nervy skill. I don't think, well, putting in our game is a nervy skill, but I think a 200-foot upshot is almost as nervy if it's going to a small island like that. And we completely got rid of that shot over the course of however many years to where it's not even a real thing. Like, we're never having to throw a 200-foot shot to a tiny area, which I think this hole did perfectly. And if you can't throw that shot under pressure, you got problems.
I don't think anyone talks about this hole if it's a par 3 and the tee is like 20 feet behind the stairs.
No, it's normal.
I don't think anyone says anything like, "Oh my God, this hole is terrible." I think you look at it like it's a 200-foot shot.
So
it's a pretty big gap, 200-foot shot, but it's the fact that big numbers happen, and I also don't think it helped that the number 1 player in the world also took big numbers on it.
I had a lot of people on my card afterwards being like, this hole's a joke. And I took a 7. I'm like, this is one of the best holes I played. I love it. I love the fact that, I got to get to this spot, this spot, this spot. I have a decision to make, and now I have to throw a 200-foot shot. Otherwise, I'm going to lose the tournament. Like, great. Put a little pressure on the field. Like, I feel like most of our courses that we play are cakewalks.
So I made a lot of notes, and I'm going to run through them. And if you guys disagree with anything, jump in and cut me off, and we'll discuss. But these were my notes after watching. I watched both FPO rounds playing the hole, and I watched both MPO rounds playing the hole, and this is what I gathered from it. So the first one is similar to what Yuli was saying. The approach shot into the green actually requires touch, a shot that we very rarely ever have to use, where you actually are throwing uphill, but you can't just power something. We saw a lot of players trying to throw flex shots, and it was flexing out. I think Niklas did a great job when I watched him play this hole with a nice buttery little backhand. Some other people are throwing some nice throws, but I saw like Sarah Hokum struggle throwing just the wrong shot. Kristen, I think, also was kind of throwing the wrong shot in there. So it's a shot that we don't get to see very often, of where you don't have anything to throw the disc into. The disc has to fall out of the sky by itself, and a lot of people struggled with that shot. I think the biggest issue for me with this hole was just how vastly different it was from every other hole on the course. The gap was too big, and instead of looking at hole 18 and saying, all right, well, we need to make this hole easier. No. Why don't we go that direction? Why don't we make more holes challenging on the course? Because to me, I think that was the only thing that was really my issue, other than you being able to just launch it long, like Holland did one round where she was like 150 feet past the basket and got a drop zone putt. That I didn't like that. But why not make other holes harder? Because you're putting so much emphasis on this hole, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that your tournament could be decided by this one hole, where if the majority of the course plays tough, right? I'm not saying make every hole super difficult, but what if we had 9 holes that played that way? One, players would have to really quickly learn how to play golf and not disc golf, which is just attack, throw. I mean, I heard on Jomez, the FPO commentators, someone threw a disc like 20 feet short. It skipped up into the railroad ties, and they ended up being like, 10 feet short of the basket, OB. And they were complaining that shot's 10 feet from the basket, OB. It's like, last I checked, we all know 10 feet short of the basket was OB.
Yeah, that's put a leg right there, and there's no problem.
That's a bad shot. So I don't know why you think 10 feet for the basket needs to be a good shot. So to me, let's make more holes this way. And then I think you'd see the cream rise to the crop. People would actually start playing disc golf. We'd actually see, I mean, the fact that we saw emotion come out of Kristen like that from this hole, that just shows you like the potential that disc golf has when you actually make a good hole that really breaks down these pros. And imagine a pro going through that whole course well. Like, that's why we love Northwood Black. We've seen Paul Macbeth, one of the best players of all time, crumble at that course before. And other people, when, Andrew Presnell played it well, that makes it even more special versus a course that we see all the time where people are shooting 14, 15 under and everyone else is shooting 10 under. It's not that impressive. So I think make the other holes harder. Yeah, go ahead.
Disc golf dabbled in this from about 2009 to 2012.
Yep.
To where we were almost going in this direction of everything was super tough because, first of all, the skill level wasn't all that great compared to now.
Sure.
And so going like to the USDGC, that course was before its time. And so you would go there and guess what? Even par, if you shot the first time I ever went to USDGC, if you shot even par across the board, you made the cut, you got paid. That's not a thing anymore, really, and the courses have gotten harder. So people were taking 20s and whatever, and they didn't like that. For some reason, people are so obsessed with this speed of play bull crap. Like, if it's a hard hole and it's windy and you got 4 cards on there, that's psychological too. That happens in golf. Like, sorry, you have a couple people on, a couple groups on the thing.
And now go away once players are better.
Well, we only had 2 groups on 18. It wasn't that bad at all. I remember back in the day on hole 888 at USDGC, you had such a long wait that we went to McDonald's.
Go get food, yeah.
No, we went to McDonald's, came back, and they allowed us to putt before we played the hole again because it was such a long backup. It was crazy. People weren't.
And the backups will get better and better as the players get better and better, right?
Sure. But I don't know why we took a left turn from that, and now it's like, okay, yeah, you go take it from over there. Oh, here's a drop zone. Improve 350 feet. It's okay. Like, at this point, I feel like is a perfect time for people to start being like, or course designers to start being like, no, let's punish them. Let's get these guys better. Like, everybody throws far sidearm, throws far backhand. That's done. It's the real thing. You watch the tour play, and everybody's doing that. So how are you going to challenge them now? There's no shot shapes. Everybody has it all. It's the mind that you're going to have to start challenging these guys. It's the mind. Other than that, like, everybody can throw good shots. Everybody can make every putt. Everybody can play perfect. But once you have a hole or multiple holes, like you're saying, Brody, where it's like, dang, do I go for this or am I going to just chip around? and
you're going to be mentally drained at the end of the day.
You're going to be mentally drained, and you're going to have to make sure that you're in good shape. You're in good mental health. Like there's party the night before. There's nothing.
Guess what else that helps? The people watching, because it's actually not that enjoyable for me to just watch Missy step up and throw a backhand, then throw an approach shot, then make a putt, then go to the next hole, throw a backhand, It's more exciting and especially for the announcers, when they're like, what is Missy going to do here? 100%. She's got a 250 force carry. Do we see Missy go for it here? Is she going to lay? Like, there's never really that much questioning in disc golf. Everyone knows what everyone's going to do before because it's so obvious. So force carry, that's my other thing. Force carries cause chaos. I love it. We need more force carries. The fact that hole 18 at Harvey is actually like a really good finishing hole. But the fact that I just wish that we could pull Holland and Kristen up and put them on Sprinkle hole 18 for that final round just to see what kind of chaos would happen. That just tells me how good of a hole that is. Some people have mentioned that they would like to see Hazard around the island instead of OB. I think that gets rid of the pressure of having to complete that shot completely. So I don't like that idea. You could do the bunker rule. So to make it like a little bit less punishing, you could just simply do it a bunker rule where you can advance to where it last was inbounds, but you just rethrow versus taking the penalty stroke. So that is a way to make it next year not as punishing for FPO.
I can't stand that rule either. Like, why are we making up rules?
I'm throwing stuff out there that people have talked about. I'm not a huge fan of these, but those were things that people have talked about. I did like that there was an official on the hole determining whether or not shots crossed in bounds. If there was an official, I think chaos would have been really, really bad. At the end of the day, too, we got to remember it's a 150-foot shot from the stairs. So just remember, most of these shots that people weren't able to execute were less than 200 feet away, guys. That's probably closer to a lot of the holes you play on some of your local courses.
Hey, here, one more point.
Go for it.
Let's think about the two courses that have the greatest finishes of all time always. And then they gave that stupid bunker rule to freaking European Open. And they ruined it on hole 17. Remember when AB had the lead, goes in there, and all of a sudden drama occurred, and it was fantastic. And we have this great moment of Corey Ellis clutching up, or 16, parking 17, getting 18, and winning the tournament. There's so many moments like that. USDGC, you don't come into this sport without knowing and hearing the stories of USDGC. And going and then being like, man, someday I want to play that. I want to feel that pressure going down the stretch to win a USDGC. Like, what are these holes? What do these holes have? They have, oh, wait, I could take a big number on this one, and it's not that hard of a hole. It's a mental challenge. And I don't know.
I think that's why no one really says too much about 17 at USDGC, because you can take a huge number on hole 3. At USDGC, you can 18. Take a huge number on 5, on 18, on 12, on 14. I mean, there's like, so that's kind of like, I think that's why I would like this hole to go. The last thing I will say, and then Missy, I'll get your closing thoughts on it. I just take away the flukiness. So maybe there is a tree, or maybe cut some of the limbs so the ceiling's a little bit higher for that second shot into that landing zone. So remove that flukiness, because I couldn't really see that well from the video. Remove that flukiness. I love the fact that this hole required you to place all 3 shots. Like you said, Yuli, if your drive got too far left, it's going to skip OB, right? Like I saw that from a lot of players. So you're having to push the right side, but then that's scary, because if your disc turns like Kristen's did in one of the rounds, it doesn't come back. Now you're OB early. Missy, I'm assuming, did you go OB left or right?
Off the tee, I went OB left. It was a ripping crosswind, and I threw like right in the middle of the grassy part of the fairway, took a big skip, and then I think I was like 2 inches OB. It's
scary for you to have to hang it that far out right and hope that it comes back, right? So the tee shot, I think, is like pressure on putting it in the right spot. Obviously, the second shot, get rid of the flukiness, but still, from what I saw, like, good shots got to good spots. if they hit the gap correctly, and bad shots kind of got held up. I think I saw like Mason Ford, for example, he threw too low and he hit that kind of dip and he was just too far back. And I mean, heck, we saw Holland. Holland threw a terrible layup. Holland was literally jump putting to try to put herself in position to go over, and then ended up throwing a terrible layup to then she had a jump putt layup again. Like, when do we ever get to see that? Like, you can't just take a break on that hole and be like, oh, my jump putt layup was 50 feet away from where I'm trying to go. I'm still just going to be able to throw it by the basket. Like, it punished you for not putting your shot, your layups, your shots in the right spot. And then that shot going over the OB. I just loved it, because the other thing you saw is as soon as someone threw one shot OB, that second shot got drastically harder for them. And I love that. There's no bailout. There's no, oh, well, if I throw the second shot OB, I get to advance to a drop. No, you sit there and stew in it. And I love that, man. I love that, because that is the thing that's missing in disc golf. There are so many times where, and this is last thing I'll say, and then Missy, you go. The one thing that I think is struggling in the FPO division is just the field depth. It's not there yet. The MPO side is getting deeper and deeper. Hence why we saw Simon Lizotte, who got second at Waco, didn't even make the cut this week, right? Not that many people are talking about that. But when the field is the way it is in FPO, if a top player doesn't have a good week, it's very noticeable. If Kristen has a bad week, it's very noticeable, because she's on the lead card. She's having a bad week. She's on the lead. Simon's not on the lead card having a bad week. We don't see Simon ever, right? So it's like you're seeing actually Kristen struggling and shanking shots. And so I think that's the big thing, is like, once the FPO field gets deeper, when players are struggling, because that happens in golf, because golf is difficult. People struggle. I just don't want to look at a tournament that Missy struggles at, or Kristen struggles at, or Holland struggles at, and be like, this course sucks. It's like, no, you should be playing a sport that Steph Curry sometimes goes out and goes 2 for 10 from 3. He has an off night. It's okay to have an off week. And I think right now, the way that disc golf is set up and the way that people want disc golf to go is they want to see Paul Macbeth go out and shoot 16 under everyone. They want to see Kristen go out and shoot 14. That to me is boring. Show me when players are struggling and show me what happens and how they bounce back. Missy, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think just to say, to kind of compliment that point is that, you know, like you said, it was because it was Kristen or because it was whoever that was shooting a bad score on that hole, it diminishes all of the other people who maybe you aren't seeing on coverage that were able to get a par, that were able to get a birdie, that were able to manage that hole correctly. You know, I think that it's important for us to zoom out a little bit and take into consideration that we do have a smaller field and that there should be these psychological challenges, especially for the top women in our sport. Yeah. You know, I loved it because, like you said, if Holland had to pitch up twice, that's because she was probably already thinking about the fact that she has to now make this next shot. You know, she was already thinking about going to the island before she was maybe laying up. I'm speculating, so sorry, sure, Holland, if I'm lying. But, you know, there's a potential that she was thinking ahead, and that took her focus off of how important just a simple layup was. And then, you know, maybe I think we talked about this last year. I don't know if you remember, but even hole 17 at Sprinkle is the island hole. You know, we were talking about how there's kind of a cap on the score that you could get on that hole because you go directly to a drop zone that's a putt. Why don't, you know, back to back, we make that also stroke and distance. Maybe we have to throw 4 shots before we can advance. That would be crazy. Two holes in a row. But like you said, maybe it's
all the holes turn that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could get interesting. I think, yes, it's hard to, like, we are growing as an FPO field, and it feels like there's this like over generalization of like the top players should always shoot good or something, you know, and that's not necessarily what happens. And I think we saw that with hole 18 at Sprinkle. And honestly, again, it was the first 2 rounds of a 4-round event. That wasn't even our finishing hole, like you just said. It was just a halfway point. And like,
it was just a hole.
It was just a hole, and you had 2 more rounds at a totally different course. Like we saw, you know, just because Kristen took 2 11s on 18, it didn't diminish her chances of winning. It made it harder, but she was right there at the end. And I mean, that speaks to Kristen being able to battle and all of those things. But like,
For sure.
It wasn't the end of the world that she took 2 11s on hole 18. It just is not something we see ever. And I think that it's more exciting when we do.
No, I can't agree with you more there. I want to see more of it. And just the contrast, last thing we'll say here, the contrast of watching Jomez was actually pretty funny, because each time they showed Kristen like struggling on the hole. And then literally the next group that they showed after round 1, 3 of the 4 FPO players landed on the island first attempt. And then in round 2, after they showed her getting a 9, the next person is Kat Merch. The next shot, literally after Kristen gets a 9, the next shot they show is Kat Merch tapping in a birdie putt. And so I'm like, where's the outrage here? Like if there's outrage, no one should be birdieing this hole. Like if that was the case and no one birdied it, no one parred it, and everyone's getting 7s, 9s, 10s, it's like, all right, maybe there's something wrong with this. But it's like, clearly there were FPO players that knew how to play the hole and played the hole well. And that's my whole thing, is like, show me the disc golf that you have to execute shots and you also can't be dumb. And that's what I want to see. Because right now, the perfect example is Gannon. When Gannon was on here and I was talking about forced carries, Mandos, and doing all this, he said, I don't want to do that. He's like, that doesn't sound fun. And why? Because he is the best disc golfer right now with how the game is played. Why would he want to add in an extra element, an extra variable that could factor into how good he plays? And I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see the chaos. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I mean, I applaud them for doing it. And Missy, I applaud you coming on here and not doing what a lot of the FPO players, and even like Yuli's saying, some of the MPO players that just say that hole sucked and not really like breaking it down and for what it is. And I think hopefully that'll be better.
One thing too is they changed the rule. Like it was like you just kept going, and they changed it the day before.
Yeah, 4 shots, right?
No, I think if you
throw the OB 4 times, I think you advance to the drop zone. Is I think what it is. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there was a qualifier, and there was 2 guys who took 24s. So there wasn't 4 shots. That's the way the rule was, and they stopped and they changed the rule.
No, I'm saying in the tournament, that's what they said in the tournament, is if you miss the island 4 times, you advance.
Yes.
You're saying before that
there was none. They changed
reloading.
it because everybody was whining about it.
They had to tape an extra sheet of paper onto the tee pad.
It's crazy.
Onto the tee sign.
Well, we got a lot of people in these tournaments that shouldn't be in these tournaments, Yuli. Let's be honest.
No. We got a lot of softies out there who shouldn't be changing holes. Like, that's the way the hole's played. Let's play it. Everybody got scared because of all the people complaining in practice, being like, this is too hard. And so they changed it for the people. It's like, if you're a course designer, you're running a tournament, and this is the way, in practice, you made us play. Keep it that way. Unless, of course, there's like a big storm and then the water goes up and like, you know what I mean? Or it's 90-mile-an-hour winds and that wasn't the case. I think that's big boo-boo. Anyway, sorry, Missy.
You're good.
There's no shot disc golf is like quick to change stuff when they hear a couple people complain, right? That's never happened.
Hey, if they're willing to do this, let's make holes harder then the day before the tournament.
Well, and also just to be completely clear, we technically did have a bailout. You could have juiced it just straight over the island. So we did have I don't know why people were coming up short so often. It just didn't make any. It's hard to throw a driver directly into a crowd of people, but if that's what you got to do to make it easier on yourself, then that's what you do. You know,
Missy, this is why people are trained effort at every level to try to throw the disc as close to the basket as possible. That's all they care about. And there's never, whenever we have a hole where it's like, hey, if you land on the left side, guess what? You don't have a putt. Guess what we hear from everyone? That sucks. I'm 20 feet away. I don't have a putt. It's like, did those trees just magically grow? We all knew if you go left, you don't have a putt. Land right. And that's the whole thing is like, it's a 150-foot shot. If you really are scared, do what Holland did and just juice it 150 feet past.
Good
and
shot.
Go up there.
Hey, good shot.
Yes, go up there, lay up and take your bogey and move on. Like if you did that both days, that's actually not that bad. Like if I saw that, I would change that rule for next year and be like, okay, that's the Simon Lizotte rule back at Deglow, right? We saw him kind of do that. So I don't know. I love chaos. I love seeing it. And to me, it's like the more that pros complain, that tells me how good a hole is. Because if they're complaining about being too hard, there's a good chance that I'm actually may be good. So, Missy, do you have anything else for the people? This was awesome for you coming on and talking.
No. Yeah, I appreciate you guys inviting me on. We'll see where the sport goes. I think we're going to be all right. It was only one hole, guys. We're going to be fine.
Last question to you. Last question. If disc golf continues to nerf holes for FPO, or what I like to say, like kind of handcuff the FPO field, and it's like, we don't want to do this because it's FPO. Do you think FPO would continue to get better? Or if they continue to put challenging holes out there, wouldn't that force FPO players to be like, wait, I actually have to get this skill. I actually have to be able to throw this shot. Is that a good take or a bad take?
Yeah, I think yes, in general, yes. Even over the course of the last few years, while we do have some courses that maybe have been eased up on for us, I think you're seeing it already. I mean, you're seeing it. I'm a prime example. I can't not have a forehand. I have to have some type of forehand. And that's just one skill, and I have a lot I need to continue to add in. But I think the biggest argument with that is just, again, we don't have like the numbers, yes. And I think that's where we don't want to discourage anybody who's potentially looking to become a professional disc golfer, taking those steps and being like, I don't know that I want to because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. I think we're just still so small as a division, and it's just finding that balance of pushing us, but also being able to bring in the next generation. I
got a hot take with that though. I think you nerf it, you're not going to get as good of players coming up. You make it extremely hard. You're going to challenge the next generation, and those are going to be the better players that come up. And so, like, if you look at, just look at the MPO, for example. Over the last however many years, the courses have gotten longer, sidearms bigger. That's what you have to do. What do we see? We see that. You have to make longer putts. You have to do all this stuff. I mean,
we see it we see that FPO too. I mean, think of the biggest superstars just coming on the scene now. It's because they can throw 500 feet. And like that, why is that the thing that they feel like they need to be the best at? And it's because it's just the precedent that we're setting, rather than throwing these nose up 150-foot shots to a tight landing zone.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, Simon's been wanting these type of shots. Now, I don't agree with his take of where you like once an entire whole course that's like touch shots like that. Maybe one hole, maybe one tournament, but I still think that'd be kind of boring to watch. But I love those shots for like par 4 second shots, par 5 third shot. I love that. So, all right, Missy. Well, we appreciate you coming on here kind of last minute to talk. I think everyone in the chat really appreciate you coming on talking. Hopefully rest up that shoulder, get back out there, and look forward to seeing you back out there.
Yep. Thanks, guys. I'm going to go take a bath. Bye.
See